Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So Chaim Nachman Bialik was one of the pioneers of modern Hebrew poetry, and he felt that Shabbat was the essence of Judaism. So he wrote this poem at the bottom of page 10 in collaboration with the great cantor Pinchas Minkowski.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. In particular, we welcome Rabbi Paul Tuckman, who we're lucky enough to have as one of our members, and also will be preaching this evening and offering some wisdom on this week's portion, which is a really wonderful thing to look forward to. Just to make a couple of announcements, we'll be using our Sidurim Mishkan Tefillah this evening. For those of you who are the online part of our community, anytime during the service you can send us names for healing and for Kaddish, and we really appreciate you doing that and being part of our community. And in general, we are starting the Torah. We are bursting into life with the creation story, the first few words of the whole Torah, starting out of nothing. And I just want all of us to reflect, maybe the first few minutes of the service, something that you have maybe created in this past year or are hoping to create in the year ahead, just by way of connecting with our portion. We continue by bringing forward John Velez to light our Shabbos candles, the blessing for which can be found on page 2.
Shabbat Shalom. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. And I will light the candles for my missing sweetheart. I've always got
Ah, what a portion.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
melech
melech
haolam.
haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav,
V'tzivanu
v'tzivanu
lahadlik
lahadlik
ner
ner
shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Since we're doing songs that honor Shabbat, we'll continue on page 11, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Oti leol meyat beino ubeini. Oti leol meyat beino ubeini. Ki eshmera Shabbat el yishmereini. Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. Oti leol meyat beino ubeini. Oti leol meyat beino ubeini.
For the following poem by Esther Cameron on creation. Upon a world of darkness and of waste, God spoke the word of light, and light blazed forth. Then between light and dark and heaven and earth, he set up boundaries not to be effaced. But when to humankind his thought gave birth, when he set his likeness as a seal on us, that all things he made might feel our sway, and we ourselves might know our worth. Then in earth's clay, heaven's breath he did instill. Two souls he fashioned for us, one divine, one beastly. Good and less good thus combine in us, but we're summoned to reveal God's presence. As our evil we refine, and on a world of darkness, flashlights shine.
Page 20. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי אותי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי. כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise to welcome Shabbat. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated and we'll read together Psalm 93 in the middle of page 23. We say, Adonai is sovereign. God is robed in grandeur. Adonai is robed. God is girded with strength. The world stands firm. It cannot be shaken. Your throne stands firm from of old. From eternity you have existed. The oceans sound, Adonai. The ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea, is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times.
Chatzi Kaddish, page 26. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכם וביומכם ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו Amen. Did you hear the voice of the newest choir member? I'm so excited. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech מעריב ערבים, בחוכמה פותח שערים. God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun, you unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars, and wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Aravim.
Continue together on 33. We say, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vaed. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39, we say, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it's eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Yai lai 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 la la la. Lai la lai lai la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef eleh, Nora tehilot osef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, pokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Ze Elianu ve'amru, Ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai la lai 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 la la la. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 lai. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, u'galo mi'ad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, leshalom. Ve'ha'amidenu, shomrenu lechayim, ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter
shelter from life's storms.
So on Sunday night, seems like about 10 years ago now, we had Simchat Torah celebration here, and it was really very, very beautiful and very joyful, and we unrolled the scroll around the whole sanctuary. We weren't sure we were going to have enough room, but we made it work. And we took in the sight of the scroll in its entirety. And so one of the things we do this time of year, as we're just finishing and then beginning again the Torah, is we look at the scroll and the Torah in its entirety. And so what's the message? One of the messages that we see, well, I was like this week when I actually discovered maybe it's an obvious teaching, but a beautiful one nevertheless. The very last letter of the whole of the Torah is Lamed. The very first word of the whole Torah is Bet. Lamed and Bet together make Lev, which is the word for heart. And so if we're looking at the entirety of the Torah, love and friendship, then one of the messages we take is that the whole Torah is just trying to teach us how to be compassionate, loving individuals in God's image, visiting the sick, feeding the hungry. And if there's one message we can take from the whole span of the Torah as it goes around the room, that might be one.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג מקדשי שבי שבת כולם ישמעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג והשביעי רצית בו וקידשת שבת חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג.
Before our tefillah, page 47, in an envelope marked personal, God addressed me a letter. In an envelope marked personal, I've given my answer. Please rise on page 46.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu,
Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor veHanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue silently through page 60. You can be either standing or seated. Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom, Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom.
טסים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך, טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם. טסים לעולם.
To those of you who are part of our community beyond this room, now would be the time to give us in the chat or comment section names for our Misha Berach, for our healing prayer. And I'm going to bring forward Margie Kendall to give our drush.
Shabbat Shalom. This Shabbat, we're beginning anew in our Torah. I have always been very inspired by the stunning creation account of Breshit, and usually enjoy some additional commentary as well, additional reading. This week I benefited greatly from 3 sources, including 2 sages and that ever-present biblical commentary, the Siddur. From Abraham Heschel, I became amply convinced that the Sabbath is a mysterious grandeur of the climax of creation, end quote. From the raw meaning of the first verses describing creation, fantastic imagery explodes in my mind's eye, even without the vast commentary available. But Heschel cruises past these to wonder what God is most impressed with in all this. What was the first holy object in the history of the world, he asks? New? The word kadosh is used for the first time in Genesis at the end of the story of creation regarding the first of untold Shabbats. And quote, and God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, Genesis 2:3. Exactly this is found in our prayer book preceding the Friday night Kiddush. The first Shabbat, I've often wondered how the sermon was that week. Secondly, our Siddur actually uses stunning creation poetry that helps us to prepare to pray by re-inspiring our hearts with verses of praise regarding the wonders of God's creation. The evening prayers provide the Ma'ariv. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons. The morning prayers, have an entire section devoted to inspiring our hearts with creation. That many of them involve creation. There's Baruch She'amar, blessed is the one who spoke and the world came to be. Blessed is the one who continually authors creation. And every morning, the Yotzer. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness. And in the weekday mornings, there's a really great insert, a surprise from Job. Where were you, in English, obviously. Where were you? Oh, this is in chapter 38. God finally speaking to Job after being hectored by Elihu. And the poetry is amazing. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Do you know who fixed her dimensions or who measured it with a line? Onto what were its bases sunk? Who set her cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the divine beings shouted for joy? And it goes on, and then to speak of light, creation of light, and then the sea, and so anyway, let me find my place. Robert Alter points out how God's words here yearn to sway Job's sadness as his points go blow for blow, responding to Job's tragic laments all the way back in chapter 3. That's the strength of this Pisuke de Zimra, the Purses of Praise section. It eases us into God's presence. We become personally inspired by the awesomeness of creation. And with softened hearts, we're ready to embrace the Shema and the Shmoneh Esrei, those special standing prayers. Lastly, I've been greatly awed by God's persistent faith in us and the potential we have, as brilliantly argued by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. He notes that during the incredible process of creation, at the point of the birth of humanity, the universe became self-aware, like a 2-year-old who's caught between vulnerability and the ability to choose. Though we are part breath of God, he says we are part dust. Rabbi Sachs said we are part dust, not God. So therein lies God's risk in creating us. Heschel already asked, why didn't the Eternal sanctify man in those first days of creation in Genesis chapter 1, as he sanctified the Sabbath? Sanctify there is used in a causative form, not an adjective. Both sages, Heschel and Sachs, put forth that God intentionally left us with free will, imbued us with creativity, and provided opportunities to engage in the challenging call to holiness that was proclaimed later at Sinai. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koch, Margie, thank you so much. We're going to continue with our Misha Barak prayer, which is on 253. If there is anyone in our community here in the sanctuary who has someone for which you would like a prayer of healing, you may raise your hand and mention those people at this time. Lori. Thank you. Jean. Thank you. Janet. Thank you. John. Thank you. Is that the Michael Campbell family or a different Campbell family? Well, I'm going to include Michael Campbell with the Campbell family. He's been out for a week or so. Andy, you can mention the name again. Thank you. Anyone else? So online we have Alice Landwer, Randy Huffman, Lila, Ralph Martin, Karen Martin, Elizabeth Korlick, Alice Lineware, Randy Huffman, Lila Taylor, Ralph Martin, Karen Martin. I have this already. Fran Bakewell, Nancy Keller Coffey, and those who we just heard about in our office this week, Nancy Keller Kofi, Yolanda Montez, Jim Friedman, Eric Glassy, Chuck Weiner, Peter Ruiz, and Ann Tillett. Just one thought. One of the things that, and I'll mention this from time to time, one of the things that we're doing with our Misha Barak list is we're dividing our list between those who've been on our list for a long time, for whom we still offer our prayers, and then those that were recently added. And the reason we read the ones that are recently added as opposed to the entire list is perhaps you'll hear the name of someone that is mentioned recently added, and either you can talk to one of us who know what's going on, and we possibly can share that, or you can reach out to those individuals and bring your healing phone call or your healing presence to them. So the Misha Barak is found on page 253, and you can spiritually or physically rise for the Misha Barak.
before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shepera imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu, bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please be seated. So we are honored to have a colleague, Rabbi Paul Tuckman, who is going to be offering his wisdom to us this evening. Paul is a graduate of Pomona College with a BA in philosophy in 1971, and then he immediately, for some odd reason, I waited a couple years, but he immediately went to our Reformed Seminary and was ordained in 1976, and his thesis has an emphasis in Midrash. He proceeded to serve for 44 years in his rabbinate, leading congregations in Dothan, Alabama, Greensburg, Damascus, Maryland, and for his last pulpit was Temple B'nai Israel in White Oak. And I read the Jewish newspaper when he was departing and retiring from Temple B'nai Israel, and they expounded on his many virtues. He was known there, and he's also known here in our adult education classes for his scholarship, being an excellent teacher, and they also went on to say he has no ego and you can ask him anything. So it's an honor to have you preaching this evening for us, Paul. Yeah, well, yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay, how's that? Good. Thank you very much, Rabbi Lockheim. Wisdom, we'll see. What you neglected to mention is that I am a graduate of the Temple Emmanuel Religious School located in these very buildings. Wow. Shabbat Shalom. I would like you to imagine that you have the responsibility of teaching Torah to a group of 5-year-olds. And I ask you, what part of Torah or what passage would you begin with? I will take 5 answers. I'll repeat the answers for those who have joined us online, and I would like to request, please, no clergy or staff. Okay, what part of Torah or what passage would you begin with a group of 5-year-olds? Anybody? Yes. Jonah and the whale. Okay, that's a good one. I mean, that sparks all sorts of images, right? And it even, there's a wonderful scene that I hope you will remember in Walt Disney's version of Pinocchio, right? Okay, I mean, You can't wipe that one away. It's a great image, and there are lessons to be learned there. Okay, second one. Oh, you people are so shy. Come on. Come on. Yes. Moses being put into the river as a baby in the basket. And, 5-year-olds, babies, yes, they can really relate to that. That's a very good one. Okay, number 3. Yes. Noah's Ark. All those animals, right? I mean, how many versions, pictorially or sculpturally, have you seen of all the animals in the ark? Kids can really relate to that one, and there are all sorts of things you can spin, all sorts of lessons you can derive from that text. Number 4, yes, the burning bush. Moses at the burning bush. A very, very good one. How is God speaking at this point? And the bush is burning, it isn't burning up, and how does God speak to us? You can get all sorts of things there. And finally, number 5, going once. Wait a minute, you're pointing over there for some reason. Oh, you heard David and Goliath over there. Okay. David and Goliath. The small against the strong and mighty. And, you're talking to 5-year-olds who are small and they know it, and they're vulnerable in the presence of much larger people. Okay, that's good. All right. So these are all very good answers, very good places to start, and they're all Torah. No, not all of them are in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. I mean, Jonah has his own book, for example. But the word Torah means teaching, and all of these are Torah. On this Shabbat, as you've already heard, we begin the annual cycle of reading a portion of Torah every Shabbat, consecutively, from the beginning of Bereshit, Genesis, through Devarim, Deuteronomy. For those of us who follow this schedule, in whole or in part, there are always new insights to derive. It's not the job of rabbis only to find these insights and convey them to the congregation. I'm happy to see members of this congregation come forward each week to share these Torah thoughts with all of us. Yesher Koach Margie. Every one of us can do the same, and it's not difficult. More on that later. The book of Genesis is virtually all narrative. After the first 11 chapters, creation, the Garden of Eden, the flood, the Tower of Babel, the remaining 39 chapters tell the story of Judaism's founding family, Abraham and Sarah and their descendants. Stories, narrative. These are basic human communication. All of us are natural storytellers. We're born that way. We use stories to entertain, to teach, to persuade, and to reveal ourselves to each other. We use the stories of Genesis and the first part of Exodus and the rest of Torah to lay a foundation for our beliefs about God, the Jewish people, and the importance of Torah. And let's not forget that these stories are intrinsically interesting and entertaining. All of this means that the passages of Torah that you suggested are great starting places for teaching our children about Judaism. But there's a different answer in Jewish tradition, and that answer is start with the book of Leviticus. Raise your hand, please, if you have read the third book of Torah, Vayikra, Leviticus, word by word, all the way through. Raise your hand. Rabbis not included. Clergy not included. Cantors not included. So how many of you do that again? Ooh, 4. Some of it is a little like reading the phone book. Do you remember the phone book? Leviticus is concerned with a number of matters, including the reasons and rituals for temple sacrifice, priests and their assistants, kosher animals, and the observance of holy days. One chapter alone, 19, is devoted to morals and ethics. So why use Leviticus to introduce Torah to children who are just beginning to read? The standard explanation is that those who are pure should be reading about purity, with which Leviticus is very much concerned. But I think that that abstraction obscures some practical considerations. First of all, much of Leviticus is very repetitious. Do you remember when you were first learning to read? I do. There was a lot of repetition. My first grade class, and maybe yours, started with Dick and Jane. Remember Dick and Jane? On the first day, and I am quoting, "Oh, oh, oh, look, look, look. Oh, look, oh, look. Look, look, oh, oh." And so forth. Of course, there were pictures, but the whole point was to repeat the words. Leviticus does a lot of that, which makes it ideal for beginning readers. One chapter of Leviticus, chapter 11, teaches the alphabet. Let's be more precise, the Aleph Bet. This chapter contains all the Hebrew letters and their variants, particularly in the lists of animals it is forbidden to eat. So the ability to read the whole chapter correctly is a test of one's knowledge of the Aleph Bet. Again, Leviticus as a pedagogical tool. Furthermore, the book of Leviticus can be used to impress young children with some of the values of traditional Judaism, that God's own self ordained the rituals that we observe daily, particularly in prayer and in eating. This lesson is reinforced in the traditional Jewish home with profound effects on the young child. As we read in the book of Proverbs, "Educate a child in the way he ought to go, even in old age, he will not swerve from it." I think that there are a few progressive Jewish households in which those lessons are taught. So when we instruct our children and grandchildren about Judaism, we want to emphasize Jewish values. So it is natural to turn first to the kinds of stories you suggested a few minutes ago, instead of beginning with Leviticus. Most of us were exposed to these stories as children. Those who attended religious school were given more detail, and some of you are engaged with Torah study to this day, and I salute you. But the sad situation is that many Jewish children are withdrawn from Jewish education at the time they become B'nai Mitzvah, with the consequence that all too many of us are walking around with 7th grade Jewish educations, or less. We certainly wouldn't tolerate the same degree of inadequate education about secular matters. The fact is, the Torah is not the golden book treasury of Bible stories. Rather, it is a book that raises serious and complicated issues to be pondered and discussed by adults. This week's Torah portion is a case in point. It has two creation stories, yes, two, that differ from each other in a multitude of ways. Why not just one account? And what are the consequences for our understanding the universe and humanity's place in it? Another issue. Even the first two Hebrew words of the book of Genesis, Bereshit, bara, are a grammatical train wreck. What does a resolution of the difficulty mean for a Jewish understanding of the universe? And since those two words are such an enigma, what does that mean for the effort to understand them? And yet another. What does it mean to say that the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the water in one translation, and in another, a wind from God sweeping over the water? Was it a spirit or wind? And where did that water come from anyway? And so on. At this point, it occurs to me to think of Rabbi Ira, who gave us the great drosh in the song, "It Ain't Necessarily So." All of these questions are far, far beyond the scope of young children's ability to wrestle with. But you had better believe that they will ask very probing questions about those texts which you pointed to when I began to speak. So how can a Jewish parent or grandparent credibly teach about Torah and its significance to our children? How can we inspire them toward reverence for and commitment to Jewish texts, tradition, and observance? I submit that it is merely basic for us adults to have more knowledge and experience of Torah than our children have. Anything less, and the youth that we hope to inspire are likely to question our own reverence and commitment. Fortunately, there are abundant opportunities to gain that knowledge and experience. Our own synagogue offers Torah study twice a week, and many more learning sessions during the week throughout the year. But you yourselves have the power to enhance your engagement with Torah. It's simple. Sit down with your copy of the Torah, a pad of paper, and a pen. Start reading. Is there a passage that moves you in whatever way? Make a note of it. Do you have a question? Write it down. Find someone to discuss your notes with, preferably someone who is engaging with the text the way you are. Are you really in a quandary? Here's a shocking suggestion. Call your rabbi, cantors, or educator and ask questions. My teacher, Rabbi Harold Schulweis of blessed memory, used to say that some of his best moments were when congregants called him with questions that indicated they were studying Torah seriously. So what I am proposing at the beginning of this new Torah reading cycle is that you read and study this adult book in an adult manner and continue to do so. I assure you that you will find in it blessing for yourself and benefit for your family and for the generations to come in our Jewish community. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. That's more work for Malcolm and me. Thanks a lot. But we appreciate the effort that you are all going to engage in. And talking about efforts, we invite Simon Rosenblatt, an officer of our Board of Trustees, who has some announcements for some upcoming events, perhaps, for the congregation.
Thank you, Rabbi Lachheim. Thanks as well to Rabbi Cohen, Cantor Cohen, and cantorial intern Sarah Bolt for leading services this evening. Thanks to John Velez for lighting our Shabbat candles, and to Marjorie Kendall for her insightful drush, and especially to Rabbi Paul Tuckman for his sermon this evening. And if you find yourself moved by his sermon to really get into Torah study, please volunteer to present a drush on an upcoming Shabbat evening. Call Eileen in the office and tell her what date or what dates you want. It's not limited to one per person. And of course, special thanks to Chris Tackett for adding to the beauty of our service through his music. And as always, thanks to our tech team hidden in the back for keeping things going behind the scenes. Torah study begins at 8:30 tomorrow morning, followed at 10 o'clock by our Shabbat morning service. As an alternative, you may join Rabbi Cohen in the Wiener Religious School Auditorium to discover what we all have in common as we approach the elections. Politics will not be directly discussed in this session, only what connects us, and that includes a light lunch. Please be sure to see either the website or the weekly email for information about our Jewish lifelong learning offerings. If you haven't already done so, please send in your membership pledge for this year. If you have questions, please contact the office or speak to me after the service. Please be sure to patronize our Judaica shop. Proceeds benefit the religious school and our Madrachim program. If you're interested in our spring Israel trips with Rabbi and Marshal Lachheim and Cantor Cohen and missed the information pleadings, please call the office for information. There's always a lot happening here at Kol Ami, including some special events happening in the near future. For example, tomorrow afternoon, you can join the membership committee for a walk along the Rito Riverwalk, followed by drinks at Union Public House. They will meet at St. Philip's Plaza near the Wren Coffee House at 3:30. Everyone is welcome. There's really much more, so I encourage you to read your weekly emails to learn about everything that's happening at your synagogue. If you're not receiving the weekly emails, please call the office or speak to me after the service. On behalf of the Kol Ami leadership and staff, I wish you a Shavua Shel Briut, Osher, Ahava, Shalom, a week of health, happiness, love, and especially now, that most elusive of all blessings, the blessing of true shalom, true peace. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, Simon. So Rabbi Cohen began our evening asking about new beginnings for all of you, and one of the things we initiated within the past few months was a Shekianu moment, and so it falls in a wonderful place right now for maybe a few of you to share something new that you have begun in this new year, something that you look forward to continuing. So has anyone started something new? And I'll just add, some of you know Laura Schnapps. So Laura's son Jordan and his wife Kelly started something new, and as a result, I have a Brit Milah baby naming tomorrow afternoon. So Mazel Tov to the Schnapps family. Andy, something new. You signed up for the Israel trip. We only need 60 more people. Thank you, Andy, for doing that. So Andy signed up for the Israel trip. Anyone else? I've got one. I will, yes. Yes. So you had a wonderful God moment, creating a new relationship with someone from Sonora, Mexico. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
I was admitted to the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum docent program.
A wonderful Mazel Tov. Rabbi Tuckman's going to be a new docent at the museum. Now we got to go learn something. So we got to go to the museum. Herb? So you started studying Musar together. Now you're going to study Torah. Are you going to be asking Rabbi Malcolm questions? Okay, all right, good. All right, we're going to continue with, thank you all for sharing. We're going to continue with the Shekianu. And for those who are at home, I'll remember to send in your names for Kaddish.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We are going to continue with the Elenu, page 282. Oh,
For Kaddish names?
I already did.
Okay.
Page.
I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, page 282, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומסתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We take a few moments for silent reflection. And for those who are in our sanctuary who are saying Kaddish for a loved one, we have a tradition, if you wish, to come forward, pick up a pebble from the table here, and feel the weight of that pebble in your hand as a symbolic representation of the impact that this person had on your life. So anyone who would like to come forward who is saying Kaddish for a loved one, you may do so. You're going to put it right down here. Thanks, Carrie. You don't want to let go. You don't want to let it go. Thanks, Fran. We reflect this week on those who died and were laid to rest this past week. Stephen Friedman, husband of Ann, stepfather of Bobby Oved, who died this morning. Suzanne Bloomfield, wife of Ned, sister of Louis Latin of blessed memory, sister of Holly Nelson, mother of Miriam and Andrew and Rachel Bloomfield of blessed memory, grandmother of Rebecca Peters, who's married to Jeff, and also grandson Aaron Bloomfield, and great-grandmother of Isabel and Amelia Peters. We also recall those who died within the past 30 days, Karen Satker, Ronald Levy, Estelle Abrams, and David Woods. And we link their names with those who died at this season in years past. And if you hear the name of your loved one mentioned, we ask that you rise and remain standing for the Kaddish. What? Oh, sorry. Jeffrey Allen Addlestone, Noreen Aaron, Oscar Barab, Ezer Ben David, Louis Bober, Lee Bracker, Israel Brill, Shane Brock, Jack Brown, Fanny Capon, Jack Demovic, Betty Edgar, Herman Eidinger, Rose Eder, Joseph Fabe, Lorraine Feinberg, Albert Feldman, Erwin Fink, Florence Fleischer, Raymond Friedman, Dorothy Fruchtman, Al Gamberg, Eva Gerstel, Milton Goldberger, Bernice Gothard, William Greenberg, Mark Greenfield, Dorothy Harriet, Lois Hosed, Vera Jacobson, Lillian Kaplan, Ted Karnofsky, Leon Katzen, Evelyn Kirschbaum, Virginia Clafter, Arlene Klein, Harry Lewis, Susan Matheson, Eva Mackenzie Mickle, Molly Miller, Samuel Nathanson, Bertha Olitsky, Lawrence Quarter, Mervyn Rhines, Miriam Richmond, Anna Rogovin, Seymour Rosenbaum, Arthur Roseman, Sarah Rubin, Bradley Ruda, Francis Levine Sachs, Beth Sandroff, Friedel Schutzbank, Harold Sessinger, John Allen Silverstein, Albert Sternberg, Aaron Stiglitz, Bernard Sussman, Helen Tepper, Katie Vernick, Bella Whitman. And for those who are at home, from Sandra Ross. So we're getting from Sandra that she's 77 years old, so, and not for Kaddish. So thank goodness. You can remain standing. If there's anyone else in the sanctuary who's saying Kaddish for a loved one, for someone whose name was not mentioned, we ask you to rise and please mention those names at this time. Carrie? Thank you. Fred? Thank you.
And since I was sick last week, Seneca Ehrman.
Okay. The Kaddish can be found on page 294. We ask our community to please rise and join these loved ones as we read the Kaddish together.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute.
בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ואמרו, ואמרו, ואמרו אמן. ואמרו, ואמרו, ואמרו amen. Please be seated. One of the joys of being a cantor is remembering new music that's really old. So this was something when I was probably in college, and it ran through all the Reform camps, and then the youth choir sang it, so I know Rabbi Lockheim knows it because its kids all know it. And if you're quick, you can pick it up. Otherwise, just enjoy it. וירא אלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. וירא אלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. There was evening, there was morning. Try it. There was evening, there was morning. There was evening, there was morning. ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, טוב מאוד. From the beginning. וירא אלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. וירא אלוהים את כל אשר עשה, והנה טוב מאוד. There was evening, there was morning. There was evening, there was morning. ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, טוב מאוד. ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, טוב מאוד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה Hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. I get the real stuff. That's why it's got the blue tape on it.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together, as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. We'll join you in the side gesture. Please join us.